Welcome back everybody to Orange Track Outlaws. Today we're going to restore this Hot Wheels Whipped Creamer Redline for Hot Wheels Redline Day put on by Diecast Outkast. As you can see, this particular model here is missing quite a few pieces. Missing a windshield, missing the little, I guess the spinny thing in the middle, missing some wheels, and needs a new paint job. Let's get into it. So here comes our project, the Hot Wheels Whipped Creamer Redline. Overall, it's not in too bad a shape actually, other than missing some parts, and paint's a little faded, and the body needs a quick polishing, but this actually shouldn't be too difficult of a restoration. But first things first, let's get these rivets drilled out and get this thing apart, and let's take a look at what we got to work with. First I'm going to punch a little hole here just to get started, just to get our drill started here. Try to get it centered on the post. Start off with our little drill bit first. Drill a pilot hole in both posts. Then we're going to come back around with the larger drill bit, drill off the heads of them posts, and this thing ought to just pop right apart. There you go. Just about got it here. We're going to get our little screwdriver, try to pop this thing apart. Try to find the best place to get in there, usually around the back wheel. See there, it just pops right apart. Got the heads drilled off and then post pretty well. So pull this thing apart. Not a whole lot to it. Basic interior. It would have a windshield, but that's missing. I do have a new replacement windshield for this. And looks like we got our little whipped creamer maker there that's missing the little red spin part in the middle. Got a new one of those. But here's what our body looks like after it come out of the sandblaster. So we're going to put this in our little wire wheel box. We're going to get that body cleaned up, get all that residue off of it from the sandblaster. Yeah, as I've said in most of my other videos, I'm a big fan of the sandblaster as opposed to the wire stripping goo. You just don't have to hassle with that goo, and the sandblaster does a really good job, and it actually especially on the Redlines does it really fast, and it does a really good job on it. I'll show you in a minute when this thing comes out of here that it actually looks pretty good overall. Once it comes out of the sandblaster and you get it cleaned up with the wire brush. But I'm gonna give this guy a little bit of a sand and a polishing so I can get that nice reflective shine for some Spectraflame paint. But here's a look at our body here after I get it all cleaned off with the wire wheel. So here's a look at our little whipped creamer part. Same thing, I hit that with the sandblaster just to get all the tarnish and whatnot off of it. Now I'm just going to clean it up and get it ready for some polish as well. Pretty straightforward there, cleaned up real well. So next we're going to do our chassis here, which does have a little good bit of pitting on it. But other than that, it's really in pretty good shape, cleans up well. I did put it in the sandblaster also. Now we're just going to try to get everything off of there with our wire wheel, clean it up a little bit. We're going to give this thing a nice polish too. We're trying to hit it with some sandpaper, but with all the exhaust and the lines and the undercarriage there, it's really hard to get a good sand on this. But here's a picture of what it looks like here. Seems to be shined up pretty good after the wire wheel. Now we're going to do some polishing here. I've got my I got my Flitz polish on there. I got my little bonnet. It doesn't take a whole lot of polish. A little bit goes a long way for these things. We're just going to turn our Dremel on our low setting and just go over this nice and slow, trying to get it, trying to get some full coverage with the polish, and just keep on polishing this thing until it starts shining. It doesn't take that long, but it does take a couple minutes. That polish likes to turn to a nice kind of a dark black, and then it gets a little, once it heats up, it gets a little liquidy, and then it starts to dry back up, and then it actually starts getting picked up by the bonnet and leaves a nice mirror shine to it. But you're just going to want to take your time. You know, there are a lot of lines and a lot of crevices here, and there really is no way to get it all out of there, but you can get darn near all of it off. Whatever's left over, you can run it through some warm soapy water, and you can even take it a step farther and hit it with some degreaser if you want to. For this particular one, I'm actually going to do both. There are some I guess they're odd looking headlights and tail lights on this, and they're both black. So I'm going to clean this up with some soap and water in a toothbrush and try to get all the cracks and crevices cleaned out with the polish. Then I'm going to go back over it with some cleaner degreaser one last time. I don't want anything left over on there that'll inhibit the black paint from the headlights and tail lights from sticking. So I'm just going to clean it up as best I can before I get to painting this thing. But as you can see, the bonnet's picked up most of the polish by now, and it's really shining in my box here. I'll pop this thing out here and let you get a good look at it. Cleaned up real nice. You can see there's a little bit of residue there, but that'll come off with some soap and water. So next up, we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to polish up our body. A little bit of our polish, spread it around. It does help to spread it around and kind of get it wrapped around your bonnet, your wheel there a little bit before turning it on, so it doesn't spray out everywhere. That's the main reason I like doing this in this little cabinet, this makeshift cabinet I made for this. You can see on the film there, it's got some polish splatter. I know is a little difficult to see, but it definitely cuts down on the cleanup time and spraying polish everywhere. And even those little wires from the wire wheel, they fall out of them wheels a bunch when they get old, and I try to avoid that and having to have them dang wires everywhere. So I like using my little polishing box here just in case anything comes off of there. But you can get a good idea of how it's turning out. You can see the shine on this body starting to come out now. You just want to make sure you just keep going over it, try to get as much of that polish off as possible. And this thing is going to it's going to shine right up real nice. Pretty straightforward restoration here. I didn't have a whole lot of choices right now. I'm kind of low on my Redline, but I did have this guy here, and I do have a nice color I want to put on it. But here's a good look at the body after we're done polishing. It is nice and shiny now, and after a little degreaser, that thing will be ready for some paint. Same with the chassis and the body. The little whipped creamer insert. We're going to hit this thing with some polish as best we can. It's kind of hard to work with being so small, but it'll clean up. It'll give a real nice pop to the interior. once it's all said and done. So same here, take our time, go nice and slow, a little bit of polish, try to get everything as best as you can. You don't want to run that Dremel on your high speed there. You don't want to get that polish too hot, because then it gets to be a real pain to get it off there. You want to go nice and slow so you don't heat that polish up, and eventually that wheel will take it off and leave you with the result that you're looking for. So here's a look at our little creamer insert. It's nice and shiny now. That thing will just take a little degreaser. But here's all our parts after we got them cleaned off, polished up, and degreased. We are going to work on our replacing our wheels here. This is one of those models that has the cap style, which is really kind of handy. You don't have to replace axles, and you don't have to worry about hubs and any of that stuff. And all you really got to do here is get your X-Acto knife and just kind of push between where the cap connects to the base there, and these really just pop right off. It's pretty easy. I did have a handful of these cap style replacements, so it made the wheel swap real simple. And I just want to clean these wheels off here, within it from any of the extra residue from the polish left on it that was missed. So I'm just going to take our little wheels here, and we're going to take our little rivet to our axle tool here and get behind the wheel and just push these caps right on, and they should pop right on, no problem. And the axles were pretty straight on this, so I didn't have to do a whole heck of a lot of tweaking to it. So same thing there, just stick your little tool behind the wheel, just for a little resistance when you're pushing the cap on, and they'll really just snap right on. You'll hear them pop, and you'll be good to go. Alright, there we go. A little wheel swap, nice and easy. Doesn't get much easier than that. But everything seems to be rolling well. We'll put our body on here just to get a little look at what we're going to be looking at here. Make sure everything's fitting right, and we'll be just about ready for some paint here. Alright, here we are in the paint booth, ready to put some Spectraflame paint on here. I have some Lumalite dye here, which is like a nice dark blue. Really like the color of this blue. What I'm going to do here is dye some 2K clear coat as some makeshift Spectraflame paint. Mine is a 2-to-1 to the clear coat and the hardener, and I thin it down with a little bit of lacquer thinner, and then I think I put about 4 or 5 drops of dye in there, mix it up, and this is really going to make a nice looking blue on here. But we're just going to start spraying here, as usual with the Spectraflame paints. We're just going to put a nice light tack coat on here, and then we're going to come in with a couple more coats and just try to keep layering it on until I get the blue color that I'm looking for. So here we are with coat number 2. We're just gonna layer it up a little bit. Probably gonna take, I don't know, it's probably gonna take at least 4 coats, I'm guessing, to to get where I want it to get. I don't want a deep dark navy blue, but I do want a nice, just a rich blue. So just try to keep turning the car as you spray. You don't want to get, too much in one area. You want to try to get nice even coats. So just keep turning it. Just try to get all the angles. Make sure you get the fender wells. So here's what it looks like after 2 coats. It's really starting to, the blue's starting to take shape here. So coat number 3. Now we can start putting it on a little thicker and trying to get that blue to really come out here and actually deepen up a little bit. It's actually getting pretty close to the blue that I'm looking for. Really liking how it's looking, and this dye is really makes this makeshift spectra flame real nice with the 2K clear. So I think we're going to put just a little bit more on here. It is starting to look pretty glossy. It does look kind of wet, but it's really not. It's really not super wet. It is going to be a little tacky, but it's not really as wet as it looks. It's just that clear starting to shine. I think this thing is looking good. It's really about the blue that I want. So I think I'm going to be done layering the paint on. I'm going to let this thing dry. Really liking that shiny blue. One of my favorite looking colors and way to paint. So after we have our paint dry, we have all our finished parts here ready to assemble. And you can see how the light's really shining off that clear coat now. Really liking that. So we're gonna final assembly here and put our polished whipped cream spinner in there with our new little spinner part we got off another car. We have our new replica windshield we got to put in here. So this windshield's kind of unique. It for the driver and passenger to get in, the windshield slides backwards and forward, so it's really kind of cool. But we're gonna get this thing put together here and get our screws in, and we'll do a little recap and show you our finished product. I do have some self-tapping screws, which are real handy. Don't have to worry about tapping the posts out. So got this thing about put together, and you're going to be ready here for a quick recap of what we started with. Got our green Spectra Flame whipped creamer. Missing a lot of parts and needing some help. Got a couple aftermarket parts to fix this thing up, and I did off camera paint the blacken on the chassis in the front and the back there. You'll see that here in a second. So here is what we ended up with. Freshly restored whipped creamer, Spectra Flame blue with the 2K clear, new cap style Redline wheels. I want to thank Diecast Outkast for putting this on and allowing me to be a part of it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and watch out for the rest of my videos. I've got some more coming up. Thanks again for watching. Please hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for anything new coming up. We do have the 3 blind mice challenge coming, and look out for the rest of my races, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.